Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. I am super excited you're joining me today because wow, we are looking at something truly mind-boggling. I want you to just imagine for a second, right? You wake up, grab your coffee, sit down at your desk to check the ledgers, and you discover that $1 billion has just vanished. Poof. Literally gone. And honestly, the craziest part? There were no massive explosions, no masked robbers, absolutely no dramatic car chases down city streets. We're talking about a few flickering computer screens, a handful of secret bank transfers, and a mystery that will become one of the biggest financial crimes of the entire decade. So how on earth does someone steal $1 billion without even setting foot in a physical bank? Well, buckle up, because today we are breaking down the anatomy of a digital billion-dollar heist.
To really get this, we have to rethink what a robbery actually looks like. We're all so used to the Hollywood version of a traditional heist. You know, the explosions, the screeching getaway cars, the brute force. But modern robbery? It's completely different. The weapons of choice here weren't guns, they were screens, stolen passwords, and honestly, an immense amount of patience. We've totally moved away from those loud, violent heists into this wild realm of invisible, highly sophisticated cybercrimes.
And the scale here is just staggering. $1 billion. It's an astronomical sum of money. To put that into perspective, this massive fortune was spirited away without a single pane of glass being shattered or a vault door blown off its hinges. It was all stolen entirely through the digital ether, which, makes this crime not just shocking, but fundamentally terrifying for the entire global banking system.
Let's jump into Chapter 1, Building the Perfect Plan. To understand how they pulled this off, we have to look at the meticulous, frankly chilling preparation phase that took place deep inside a highly trusted international investment company. Honestly, their greatest weapon was just patience. This company managed billions for wealthy clients, businesses, governments. It was a fortress of high-volume transactions. But the hackers didn't just smash in and grab cash. They lurked. Investigators later realized this required deep insider knowledge. Whether they used a dishonest employee, maybe a compromised former contractor, or were just outside hackers with stolen credentials, they used that access to secretly map out the company's internal systems completely undetected. They literally studied when employees came to work, when they took lunch, and when they logged off. They mastered the complex banking software used to move money across borders. Basically, they made themselves ghosts in the machine.
And they didn't just go for the $1 billion right out of the gate. Actually, they tested the waters, escalating step by step. Step 1 was a small, practically unnoticeable test transfer of just $10,000 using fake payment approvals. And it worked. No alarms. So, Step 2, they bumped it up to $100,000. Still nothing. The system totally trusted the credentials. Then Step 3, they pushed through a few million. Every single transfer succeeded. So with every test, their confidence grew. They knew for sure that their invisible pathways were fully operational and completely unmonitored.
Which brings us to Chapter 2. The Friday night vanishing.
So months of this quiet observation suddenly turned into decisive, devastating action. They exploited a perfect storm of timing. It's Friday night, 8:00 p.m. Offices are empty, most employees have logged off and started the weekends. That is exactly when the criminals strike, initiating hundreds of carefully timed transactions. For the next 48 hours, while the traditional financial world is asleep, the funds are ruthlessly and rapidly dispersed into hundreds of separate global shell accounts. It isn't until 9 a.m. on Monday morning, when an accountant is doing a routine reconciliation, that the massive missing balances are finally discovered. The criminals exploited that weekend window absolutely flawlessly.
No vault was opened, no security guard was threatened. The money simply disappeared. Now, when that accountant first saw the discrepancies, they honestly just thought it was a software glitch. I mean, who wouldn't? But as executives checked more and more accounts, the numbers were impossible to ignore. Millions were missing. Then hundreds of millions. Within hours, emergency meetings were called, regulators were notified, and it became crystal clear that they were facing an unprecedented global financial disaster.
Moving into Chapter 3, The Global Money Trail.
As soon as the discovery was made, a frantic global manhunt kicked off, but the criminals were already 10 steps ahead of everyone. They obviously didn't just leave the cash sitting in bank accounts. They rapidly converted the stolen funds into assets that are notoriously difficult to trace. We're talking cryptocurrencies, luxury real estate, expensive artwork, rare collectibles, the whole shebang. The money was routed through shell companies, which are basically just entities that exist on paper, often in countries with super strict financial privacy laws. Some of those accounts were empty within minutes of receiving the stolen funds. Every single hour that passed made the investigation exponentially more difficult. The sheer scale of the response was massive. Authorities from multiple countries had to form a joint task force. You had cybersecurity experts analyzing endless computer logs, banking specialists trying to reconstruct every single transaction, and digital forensic teams digging through thousands of devices. And this wasn't a quick CSI-style fix. Months turned into years of uncovering hidden connections between fake companies and encrypted chats. While several suspects were ultimately identified and international arrest warrants were issued, some were even captured, which is great, others simply vanished without a trace, taking all their secrets with them.
And when we look at what was actually recovered versus what's still missing, it's a harsh, tragic reality check on modern financial crime. Yes, authorities managed to freeze some accounts, they seized luxury homes, confiscated sports cars, even took private yachts into custody, recovering millions of dollars. But compared to what was lost, hundreds of millions of dollars remain permanently missing, just swallowed up in the shadowy maze of international finance. Honestly, experts believe a huge portion of that stolen billion will never, ever be found.
All right, let's look at Chapter 4, the costly lessons learned.
This devastating heist didn't just impact that one company, it sent absolute shockwaves through the entire financial sector. It exposed severe, systemic vulnerabilities in global banking. Why did they succeed? Because of critical security failures. We're talking weak password policies, poor employee verification, outdated software, and totally insufficient monitoring for high-value transactions. The criminals didn't exploit physical weaknesses, they exploited human trust and incredibly weak digital systems. They essentially used the company's own infrastructure right against it.
After this, financial institutions globally studied this exact case and fundamentally changed how they protect our money. They threw out those old flaws and brought in powerful new solutions. Instead of relying on weak passwords and legacy systems, they introduced artificial intelligence to monitor suspicious transfers, rolled out real-time fraud detection, and enforced much stronger identity verification. So, the next time you get a little annoyed because your bank is making you use multi-factor authentication to log in, you can trace that directly back to disasters like this billion-dollar heist. Those extra steps are the new digital vault doors protecting your accounts.
Technology has made banking faster and more convenient than ever before, but it's also created these massive new opportunities for organized criminal networks. Security today is no longer just about locked doors and thick steel. It's about protecting digital identities and complex global payment networks. Which leaves us with a final kind of chilling question. What if the greatest robbery in history began with a single click? It's a powerful reminder that in our hyper-connected world, the most devastating threats are completely invisible. By the time anyone even notices a problem, $1 billion can already be gone. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this breakdown gave you a whole new perspective on the invisible world of modern cybercrime. Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.